The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday, the beginning of another week in Oz.
Welcome to the merry old land of Oz, that's for sure.
And, well, we've got a whole bunch of things to talk about.
Yes, we do.
And, okay, what are we going to lead off with?
Well, let's lead off with the fact that you know what happened today in 1883?
Do I know what happened in 1883? Spring break started? I don't know.
No, a man by the name of Marx died, who wrote the Communist Manifesto.
Marx.
So in 1883 today, he passed away. I thought that was funny. That was a little tidbit of information which came up. But let's get right to...
I'm more interested in the manifesto than when he died, but that's okay.
That's okay, is right. But you know, interestingly enough, when I was driving in this morning, I was listening to the radio, and people were calling in talking about how to tout tourism. And they said, how can you tout tourism on the tourism corridor? I didn't even know the tourism corridor was along the waterfront, along Duval Street. And they said, on one side is trash, and on the other side is construction. And how can people even say that this is a place for tourism?
Well, you know, this is the propaganda machine again. Give it a name, give it a fancy name, and it makes it something special. You know, we've had Operation Diamond, you know, and now we've got the corridor, what was that?
The tourism corridor.
Tourism corridor, yeah. Or as it was known in Alaska, the bridge to nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah, so and it's like baloney. You know, it's like the tourism.
And it's not Oscar Mayer.
Will you politicians please stop with the ridiculousness and start looking at this city? You don't even have rose-colored glasses on. You've got a blindfold on.
Something along that line.
I mean, we're going to get tourism. It's the poorest. Well, here we go again. We're the poorest city in the state. We have one of the highest opioid problems. We've got one of the highest crime rates. The place is a mess. And there's all kinds of construction down there anyway. And it's like, come on. Tourism is not going to be the anchor, the linchpin of our economy. And because you keep deluding yourselves to that shows that's why we're ineffective. That's why we haven't changed in 20 years. The city's gotten worse. The population's decreasing. The economic demographic is getting worse and worse and worse. We now occupy the bottom. 351 out of 351 cities and towns.
Yay, we made it to the top of the bottom.
We made it to the top of the bottom. Yeah, we are the foundation of having the lowest income in the state. And yet our politicians go on their merry way naming things. You know, I guess our friend Mark Monroe Dion was talking about their delusionary tactics in his article, and he said they could send an 8-year-old to the store to buy groceries, and he comes back with $100 worth of candy, and you can't blame him because he's an 8-year-old. Well,
that's right.
We don't have any 8-year-olds, although sometimes I think they may act like 8-year-olds on our council and in the 6th floor, but that's what they do. We keep telling them we want the city changed, and they keep coming back with the same old baloney. The same old stuff, and it never stops. All they do is give jobs to their friends and raise taxes and fees and make this city, we continue to beat this city over the head with a stick, and until they're going to continue to beat it with this ridiculous propaganda of naming things until they kill the city.
Yeah, well, Chip, you know, it's very interesting because, you know, a lot of times Mr. Dion and I don't agree politically or on some of our commentaries, but lately he's been right on the money. And I don't know if he joined the Spindle City Straight Talk school of thought, or if we're finally all just getting together on pointing out the fact that this is a line of BS constantly. And there isn't a dime that this city can't spend. Why? Because it's not theirs.
That's right.
And, you know, this column, Money Doesn't Grow on Trees, is amazing. And it's addressed directly to it because the title is Money Doesn't Grow on Trees, Fall River Officials. Didn't say that to Fall River residents, okay? And I'm just fed up with the fact that there's a select group of people which point this stuff out, and the city council walks around. You know, I can't see it. I can only see what I'm told to see. You have 6 city councilors, 6, which voted to divide DCM, as we spoke about last week, with no proof. The numbers were all fabricated. It was either a total misrepresentation, or they need to go back to the 3rd grade to do some basic math. And that's what scares me, because if this is what this looks like now, what's going to happen later? And remember, the mayor proposed this division based upon that he's going to roll in the school department building and grounds. Well, you can't do that. So now that we know that you can't do that, we've divided up, cut the responsibilities on both sides, kept the salaries at just about 6 figures, because with stipends and clothing allowances and travel, it goes over 6 figures. So why? So that we can give my friend a job, because my friend needs a job. Well, so, you know, I'm tired of this my friend needs a job bit, and, you know, I'll get into that in a little bit, because this is ridiculous.
Well, let's get into it now. I think you're talking about this Herald News article by Joe Good, the new Fall River Community Development Coordinator. Happy to be home again.
Yeah.
So let's examine that. And the reason that they do is because they have revisionist history, and they ignore everything and figure they can just continue to say it. And, you know, okay, here's Mr. Anthony Robinson, and he says, you know, and this is a quote, I'm hoping to bring, what I'm hoping to bring is a direct and clear line of transparency in my job, and I believe, as my predecessor's job goals was to allow community organizations to have a direct line to the administration and associated agencies. Well, guess what, Mr. Robinson? Long before your job existed, they had a direct line. It was called the elevator to the 6th floor, walk into the mayor's office, and pitch your bitch, because that's what neighborhood leaders did. That's what organizations did in this city. They went directly to where the buck stops. And if they had a problem that the council could deal with, they went before the city council.
Well, you know, Chip.
But CJ, before let's examine. This right here is a microcosm of the problems in the city of Fall River. And this if we examine the evolution of this job, see, this is one of the problems with drug czars and grant writers. They last forever. They're like cancer. They stay there until they kill you, unless you cut them out. You know, this job, and make no bones about it, this job was created for a high school chum of former Mayor Flanagan. This job did not exist before it was created for a high school pal. Give your pal a job. And they gave the pal a job. And now the propaganda machine to justify the job has given this a glowing reports. Oh, this is wonderful. I don't know how we did without it. Well, we did fine without it. I never saw any neighborhood associations, you know, attacking City Hall with pitchforks and torches before. They were quite capable of going before the city council or the mayor and tell them when they had a problem. But no, we've taken a job, and let's always remember this, a job created for a friend, an unnecessary job that has now evolved into a permanent job in the city of Fall River. Because when one political hack leaves, we get another political hack, another friend to get this job again. This is the problem. We have to stop this madness. And if we have to stop it legislatively, we're going to have to start asking the voters to get rid of these jobs, because this is what is wrong with the city of Fall River. This job should not exist. And the same thing is going to happen to the grant writer that our current mayor gave it to his friend, and now he's given his friend a job that was created by another mayor for a friend, and now he's beginning to create jobs for friends. And we have to realize that the problem with this is they never go away. Mayors come and go. Political patronage jobs become part of the city's fabric. These jobs remain. The next pile gets in and he says, "Oh, that's right, Flanny created a job. I got one of my friends I can line up for that, and I'll create one too." And then after a few more mayors, we've got 10 or 15 jobs that we don't need. And it happens everywhere. It happens
like chief of staff.
It happens, yeah, chief of staff, created to give a pay raise to someone that was very, very friendly with the mayor. And, you know, so we elevated secretary to chief of staff with the associated and commensurate pay raises, which is like making a janitor a sanitary engineer and giving him a six-figure salary because now he's an engineer. But, you know, it happens in the school department because Meg Mayo Brown every year figures out a way to create more administrative positions.
Right.
And this is what's got to stop. It's bad enough. It's bad enough that they spend every single dime we give them and then threaten public safety cuts to get more taxes. They increase the financial liability to the taxpayer by continuing to create this kind of stuff, and it's ridiculous.
Oh, I agree. But you know, the thing that really scares me, I'm going to read you the job requirements. Before you can be hired for this particular position, this is what you have to do. And this comes directly from the city. I requested this under the Freedom of Information. Minimum requirements, these are minimum. Bachelor's degree in public administration, urban affairs, business management, or a related field is necessary. Minimum 5 years of working in an outreach capacity to the general public. Candidate must be able to communicate orally and in writing in a clear and concise manner. Personal computer experience with skills in MS Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Publisher is a must. A valid Massachusetts driver's license. Working and/or attend meetings on evenings and weekends is required. Yet at the top of this job description, it says the hours of work are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. So this is what you call a, you know, total contradiction of a job description. Here's how it's paid. $40,000 a year. That's going to be the base minimum. Community Development Block Grant Housing Program pays 10% or $4,000. Community Development Block Grant Administration Fees pays $12,000, and the Attorney General pays $24,000. The benefit package includes health insurance, single plan, sick time, 1.5 days per month, vacation 2 weeks after 6 months of employment. Retirement package, 9% contribution made by CDA of $40,000 yearly salary, equaling $3,600 a year. The severance package includes the same as offered to all city employees, a buyback of up to 60 sick days, buyback of all unused vacation days, and a pro rata of due vacation days. Now let's go over this man's
wait a minute.
application.
Go
ahead.
Did you read down back of all unused vacation?
Yes.
Well, that's not the way some contracts are worded. There is a cap on how much vacation you can buy back.
This one says,
especially on jobs that you have to spend 30 years to retire on. Because then if you don't take a week's vacation for 30 years, they owe you almost a year's pay.
Right.
So let's make that clarification too. They have it a little bit better than
exactly
than some of the people in the rank and file.
Well, as I said, here's the gentleman's application. Yes, we actually got that as well. So at the time of his application, he lived in Providence, Rhode Island.
So does that mean he doesn't have a valid Massachusetts driver's license?
Bingo! He actually has a Rhode Island driver's license. Now, here's his education background. Durfee High School, 4 years, class of 1990, general studies. Bristol Community College, class of 94, health and human services was his field of study. And then technical training in research study with NC, looks like SS, research and technical studies. He only has an associate's degree, strike one. Strike two, he has a Rhode Island driver's license, not a Mass. Now, here's his experience. State of Rhode Island General Assembly, Senate. Senate Services Coordinator, event planning and scheduling. And he did that for, looks like about almost a year, a little over a year. State of Rhode Island General Assembly, the House. House policy analysis, administrative tasks, reports, and clerical. Did that for 8 years. Corrigan Mental Health Center, mental health counselor 2. Old Colony YMCA, mentor 2, assessments of adolescents age 12 to 18. Now, does that meet any of the requirements so far? Where's the 5 years? You must have 5 years in public outreach. There's no 5 years of public outreach at all there. So strike three, usually you're out.
I think they're substituting political outreach for...
There's no political outreach. He was a scheduler and an event planner.
Well, the events are political, you know. I mean, look, CJ, we've got to stretch. You know, you've
got to stretch the truth a little.
You got to bend. You got to bend. It's got to be malleable when you're dealing.
Right.
You're getting your friends' jobs. These things. You got to remember another thing about politics. They write these job descriptions and their requirements with no intention of abiding by them. But when you require a bachelor's degree, you can pay a higher salary.
Yes, that's right.
So this is the fact. We all know that this is what happens when you require degrees. It is always a precursor to paying somebody, getting an excuse to pay somebody more money, because they're then quote unquote a professional. You know that very well in your profession, because at one time nurses went to school in the hospitals.
That's right.
And were very well trained. And then somebody got the brilliant idea that, hey, if we make this a college course and then add some alphabet after it, like AA or AS or BA or
PHN,
BS,
RNP.
Yeah. You know, and then we can make
CCRN.
Then we can demand a higher pay.
That's right.
That makes us quote unquote professionals. And the same thing in my field of endeavor. The fire service at one time, you trained in the fire service. You went to, the fire academies, and you took courses at the National Fire Academy, which were very, very good, taught by firefighters. And then some rocket scientists got the idea that, hey, why don't we create fire science? And then you have a degree. And now many cities require a bachelor's in fire science or fire administration in order to be the chief of the department. And they require, and of course there's compensation, educational incentives and things like that. So all these things are about money, but then when it comes to politics, we write them and then we hire people that don't satisfy the requirements. Just as in the inception, I think on the last show or the show before, I talked about when they reorganized the city under Carlton Viveris and required an engineering degree and some other certificates, I think, for DPW. And then the first guy, I believe it was Ronnie Costa, he hired, and Ronnie Costa, I don't even think had any degree above a high school diploma, if he had a high school diploma. Yeah,
well, interestingly enough for Mr. Robinson, I also got a hold of his Rhode Island salary record. I don't, now Mr. Robinson has to explain why he left a job that paid $1,574 more a year than a Fall River job. And I'm not going to speculate, but normally you don't take a job where you're taking a cut in pay. So I think that's going to be very interesting. But again, a job that we don't need, and more political patronage jobs that we can do without. And now, of course, the Herald News once again. Oh, and by the way, Joe Good, nice fluff piece you wrote there.
Yeah.
Again, You know, we have an article about what? Could Amazon's success in New Hampshire, Nashua, New Hampshire, foreshadow the future of Fall River? Well, let's call out the fake right off the top, and let's be realistic about this, okay? Number one, very clearly in the original article, it said that Nashua, New Hampshire did not, I'm going to say that once again, did not give Amazon tax breaks, TIFs, or incentives. The state of New Hampshire did not give tax breaks, TIFs, or incentives, but they still went to New Hampshire. I wonder why. Oh, and you think that we're going to foreshadow, this is going to be the foreshadowing for Fall River? No, this is the foreshadowing for what's called economic development, not economic destruction. Thank you, Mr. Fiola, who gives away the kitchen sink with everything. And by the way, when you do that, you also take their trash and you don't make it go in a purple bag. It's kind of sad.
Well, it takes a little bit of looking closely at things and not listening to the propaganda. And this is, again, is propaganda. Wow, look, Amazon's been a success in Nashua, so it's going to be, is this foreshadowing great success in Fall River? No, it's not, unfortunately. Because number one, let's make this perfectly clear. Amazon is a predatory company. They go wherever it's going to benefit them, and they move around like Bedouins. The fact is that this is apples and oranges. The facility in Nashua is 100,000 square feet. The facility in Fall River will be 1 million square feet. That's 10 times larger.
Do we make 10 times more money because of it?
Yeah, no, we make 10 times less money, and let's look at this closely. Why didn't Amazon expand that facility in New Hampshire to 1 million square feet? You know why? They pay taxes up there, and the building would be 10 times larger. They might pay 10 times more taxes. So where did they come? They come to a place where they can operate at virtually no cost to themselves. And when those TIFs dry up, I only have one thing to say: A.J. Wright. Because Amazon will say bye-bye, and they'll move to some other place that they can get a deal on. Because, look, it's a warehouse. Not a big deal to leave a warehouse. They left A.J. Wright. We saw how many companies leave. This is the problem with Fall River. They try to manipulate the thought process. Look, it's like comparing a closet with a Newport mansion. You know, the place is, and number one, obviously, first and foremost, you think Nashua, New Hampshire has anywhere near the same type of demographics as Fall River? Do you think their household income is as low? Do you think do you think their economy is as bogged down as Fall River's? No. The reason it's a success in New Hampshire is, okay, they've got fairly low operating costs in New Hampshire, and it's a small facility. But they came to Fall River because it was the best deal, and they'll leave Fall River for a better deal. So let's not, all they do is continue the grinding out of this. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And they do the same thing over and over again, and they come up with the same solutions. The tourism corridor, the Operation Diamond, Operation BS, and that's what we have here. Operation BS, and they say that there are no absolutes, but there are. It's absolutely true that we will have financial problems during budget time. It is an absolute that they'll figure out some way to raise the taxes, raise fees, because they never stop spending. And when you see the new community development coordinator, remember, this city functioned with neighborhood associations for decades before we ever had that job. And remember the bottom line. That job was not created because of a necessity for the job. It was created to give Will Flanagan's best high school pal a job. And that's what happens all the time. And our grant writer, do we need a grant writer for $65,000? We got a SAFER grant, the largest SAFER grant in the history of the nation, without that grant writer. So
Now,
somebody wrote the grant, and the fact is we have grant writers all over. Virtually every department in the city has grant writers.
Are you speaking about the former drug czar title person?
Yeah.
He's not a grant writer. He's a grant coordinator.
Well,
So we have somebody who says, "Oh yeah, we got a grant, we got a grant, we got a grant." Hey, there you go.
that's even worse.
65,000.
But I mean, all right, he's a grant writer. He reviews grants. He coordinates grants. And what that is a euphemism for a created job. It's a job that shouldn't exist.
It's almost a no-show job.
Yeah, you actually can, because you can coordinate it from your house.
Right.
It's like, okay, just send me the
Or
grants.
at the Pink Bean.
But this is the problem. I mean, look, one thing I've learned in politics, job titles mean nothing. Just as prerequisites for employment mean nothing. You know, I mean, well, let me be perfectly with these titles, because to me they're all the same title, BS political hack jobs, but the community development coordinator requires a bachelor's degree, but he's still there with an associate degree.
And you know, many people were justifying it. Well, we didn't have anyone qualified. So you don't have put the search wider instead of limiting it. No, we're gonna hire the least effective, least qualified person for the job.
You want to explain the logic to me, CJ? Maybe you can help me with this. Can you explain the logic of anybody attempting to justify a position that shouldn't exist?
I can't think of one, but then again, I'm not a moron.
Because of the fact that, look, everybody has now forgotten. See how small the memory is, the memory banks.
Well, they put stuff in the water here to stop that.
Yeah, we've all forgotten why this job was created.
Right.
It was created for Perry Long, who was Will Flanagan's best bud in high school. It was like frickin' frack, Mutt and Jeff.
Whose uncle is a city councilor.
So what a great job his nephew did, or whatever. And you know something? The job's not necessary.
No.
But that's what politicians are great at doing. Spending money, creating jobs for their friends, and screwing the taxpayer. That's what they're best at.
Well, you know what I love is that, you know, Mark Dion called, I believe, Kathy Ann Viveris the financial magician. But, you know, it's just interesting to see how, as you said, the memory in Fall River is so finite. And honestly, I think they put something in the water that creates that situation, because it definitely doesn't come from us. We kind of bring this stuff back up, and people get upset with us for doing it. Yeah. But you know what? I don't care. You know, 1 week ago today, I was sitting here going, why do I do this? Why do I do this? Why do I do this? And I was this close to saying, you know what? I'm done. The people of Fall River don't care. Why should I do this? And I got that one phone call and that one meeting, which put me in a position where I said, now I know why I do this. Because when you reach out to somebody and they're always knocking you down for doing it, but they come up to you or make a phone call to you and say, you know what, I was wrong, you guys are absolutely right. Well, you know what? That's why we say, stay angry, because we are.
They're beginning to get it.
Yes, they are.
Information, so that's why. Stay angry as always.
It's an educational process.